What isn't as difficult as people say it is? Story 1. Fixing stuff. Amazing how many things can be fixed by watching YouTube, even if you are not mechanically inclined. I recently saved $200 plus repairing an electronic part on my stove. It was literally 4 screws to repair. Story 2. Cleaning out a room you've been meaning to since you moved in 3 years ago and haven't touched anything in any of the boxes, but still think you need to keep it all. Story 3. Knowing you're right but not fighting about it or even pointing it out. Sometimes it just doesn't matter that much. Let that guy believe that DC is better than Marvel. Let that lady believe that her candidate is better than your candidate. Let that person that cuts you off in traffic go without chastising. Story 4. Being a loving parent. My child is a gift I did not deserve. I know many parents who act like their kids took their vitality and youth. I'm always silent because I know some of them had fathers, had food every night. It's not as hard as my family made it out to be. Story 5. Being a 10/10 friend is really not hard. Ask people questions about their life/interests. Listen to the answers and try to remember upcoming events/milestones. Check in or celebrate when those milestones pass. X. Friend mentions they're getting blood work done or having an interview next week. Text or call them a day or after lab visit and ask if they got their results or wish them luck before their interview. This very simple strategy of remembering things about friends day to day has won me so many friendships. People like feeling special enough to be remembered. Story 6. Building your own PC. It used to be challenging, but these days the hardest part is choosing the right parts. And even that's easier than ever with the configuration tools available. It's harder to assemble most Lego sets than it is to build a PC. Story 7 saying Worcestershire. America, you have a Worcester. You pronounce it like we do. Worcestershire. It's that simply. I'm not asking you to speak Latin. I'm not asking you to sing Rap God in Chinese. Just say Worcestershire. That's it. 3 steps. Story 8. If things were easy, people would have an easy time doing them or being them. Things just aren't easy. The hardest general one they say might be the popular Redditism, just be a good person. It isn't really that hard. That is very wrong. It's extremely hard to actually be a good person, an honest person. Society rewards financially dishonesty far more than it does honesty. Story 9, understanding the rules of cardboard games. The initial stages of having it explained or reading through the rules can seem overwhelming. But honestly, just giving it 10 minutes of time is all you need to realize most of them are super straightforward. Story 10, losing weight. Once you have found the method that works for you, that's where most people fail. There isn't a one-size-fits-all method. Edit. Lost 60 pounds doing keto, but wouldn't recommend it. It was the one that worked for me. Story 11, meditation. People think it's this dreamlike state you have to enter. Not at all. It's a state of mind where your thoughts aren't going crazy. You realizing when you're distracted? That's the essence of meditation in practice, not a loss. I do it every morning because it's easy. Story 12. Being respectful and considerate of others. For some reason, whenever you ask someone for the most basic human decency, they absolutely balk and will expend significant energy on purposely being horrible just to spite anyone asking for the minimum of human decency. They will then insist that it was the decency that was a drain on energy and that the horribleness just came to them so much more easily. If that's true, I weep for my countrymen. Story 13, doing the right thing. Some big life shit is hard, but paying for something you bought that didn't make it on the receipt or returning a phone someone left are not. People set such shit examples for their kids. Story 14, parenting, honestly. When they're little, just don't let them die on accident. When they're big, just don't let them die on purpose. Both my kids turned out to be good people and never caused me many headaches after the teething phase. Story 15, getting in shape. It is very difficult psychologically, and for many, it is physically painful. Their emotions get into the way a lot, but the actual robotic process when you take psychology and emotion out of it is straightforward. Progressively place more load stress on the body in a targeted way until it adapts. Tilde. Speaking as someone who absolutely tortured myself mentally believing it's genetics, it's not for me, it's impossible. But if AI were to assess my life, if I fed it my schedule, it would find I never had a program with progression built in and spent less than 5%, given a 16 HR day, of my time on my fitness. You got to be brutally honest in your assessment and just sometimes got to show up to follow the steps. Repeat for at least 6 months. And yes, I have had weight problems with a family of obese diabetics, so please know, but what about me here? Story 16. Making an important phone call. I'll put it off for days/weeks/months. And then when I actually get around to it, it's the easiest thing ever. Sometimes I have to trick myself and just spontaneously start the call just to get over the apprehension. Story 17, cooking. Basic car maintenance like changing oil, replacing a battery, drain and fill transmission fluid, and checking check engine light codes using a $35 plug-in diagnostic box into a OBD2 plug under the dashboard. Dressing more fashionably with well-fitting nice clothes on a budget. Cutting your children's hair without it looking weird. Basic plumbing repairs. Any component from the drain up to the sink is a simple unscrew and replace or clean out job. Story 18 people are going to hate, but being a stay-at-home parent. My old job laid off about half the company. I was out of full-time work for about 9 months and was just doing a small remote gig and staying home with the kid. It was fun. Omao would 1000% take being a stay-at-home parent over working full-time. The people who say it's the hardest job on the planet are just trying to keep people from realizing how nice that lifestyle is. Story 19. Getting in decent shape. All you need is the ground. If you want, spend $50 and get a set of 10 pounds weights and a nice mat. Ground floor exercises will allow you to get a full six-pack, great back and chest and rippling arms. There are so many variations that allow you to use every muscle. You have streets around you, run in a circle around the block, over and over every other day. Go for a 10-minute walk every day. Bad knees, spend another $10 and get wraps or run on the road, not sidewalks. It's sad that so many people waste the best years of their life because they are unwilling to dedicate an hour every other day to their body instead of doom scrolling. If you do this every other day, you will immediately notice the differences and start to love the feeling of being younger and healthier. Story 20. School. I feel like my entire life, everyone would always talk about how difficult it was. My peers, my parents, and even some teachers. But it would always set the expectation that it was going to be difficult, so high that I'd get to a new year semester and realize it wasn't this life-altering event. Yes, there were times it was a little busy and required some extra studying, but I'd say it was pretty smooth sailing in general. College especially, which even full-time was less work per week than in high school. Story 21, being on time, 99.9% of the time. Adjust your thinking to not think of the time the event/meeting/casual fling starts. Think of the time you want to arrive and only that. Most brains will adjust and back time events to match that time, even ADHD brains like mine. Story 22. This is seriously going to upset people. Physically losing weight. Yes, psychologically it can be a lot, but physically, you just have to consume less calories than you burn. The human body cannot defy the laws of thermodynamics. You cannot gain additional mass if you are not consuming it. Story 23. There is nothing in medical school that is hard to understand from a conceptual level, except maybe the physics of how an MRI works. It's all very simple, actually. What makes it hard is the volume of small, simple things one needs to know, and then integrating all of those into actual patient care in a way that benefits patients. And so you don't accidentally kill someone. It's the last part that makes the training process so long. A carpenter could just as easily screw a plate into a fractured femur as a surgeon. Many of them could probably do it better than a surgeon. But knowing when to use a plate, how to access the femur without ligating a major artery or nerve, and all of the pre-op and post-op management is what takes a long time to master. Story 24. Slowing down your reading to make sure you're understanding and comprehending it, instead of making a habit out of skimming everything. Story 25. Fixing things on your own. There's so much free information on YouTube and Google, but sometimes we just don't ask questions and immediately try to find someone to do it for us. Having a middleman is what keeps the world going around, though, because some people do that as a job and need clients and whatnot. Story 26. For people who make decent to great money and to not be broke. There's absolutely no reason why people who earn $150,000 a year should be living paycheck to paycheck. Most people can't truly tell the differences between wants and needs. Story 27. Management. I once thought management required a people person with a deep understanding of the human mind. I avoided the role for years, doubting my abilities and reading numerous books to compensate. However, I discovered it wasn't as daunting as I expected. Now I enjoy leading, delegating, and managing. Don't be a dick to the people that work for you, and for the most part, they will get the work done. Story 28, being nice. Jesus Christ, it's really not that difficult to not make an asshole statement when you're talking to someone. Also at risk of downvotes or dumb replies, using someone's pronouns correctly. It really ain't that difficult. You're substituting a word. And I get it, we all make mistakes. Hell, I've referred to myself wrongly before. But then you just go, oops, I meant, and move on. And when you make it the other person's problem and go on about how hard it is, that's really shitty, because now they have to assure you that they're not mad at you. Dear fucking Lord. Not to mention how it feels kind of shit to hear that something as simple as respecting you is such a big hassle. Story 29. Painting miniatures. Companies make models that are so simple, but the detail is so clearly sculpted that when you combine it with speed/contrast paints, they practically paint themselves. Barring a physical limitation that makes handling a brush difficult or impossible, I think I could teach anyone to paint a mini that would blow their mind with how it looks given an hour or two. Story 30. Finding joy. Simple little things that once you start to notice help the day. The coffee has a good flavor this morning. A dragonfly with pretty wings just flew by. I hit 3 green lights in a row that should help make up for the last 4 red lights. Life is hard. Finding the happiness in little things make the day go so much easier. Story 31. Doing the right thing. 99.9% of the time we know what the right thing to do is. We just don't because it's inconvenient or slightly difficult. As I get older, I try to ask myself, if I don't do it, who will? Could be as simple as picking up a piece of trash someone threw on your walking path that day. Story 32, math. Until you get to like differential equations, IT, quote S, just addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division in algebra. Even an integral or derivative, when done the long way, is just algebra. The problem is, math is like navigating roadways. You can know your destination, and you can know how to drive. But if you don't know the roads, you need to drive them a few times before you remember how to get there with our help. So really, yes, you need to do your homework and practice up on how to get from A to B. Unfortunately, far too many people just don't want to put in the effort, and they shut down and refuse to even try. Story 33, consideration. I have work, I have my responsibilities, I have my own life, but I still consider the people in my life in every decision I make. I make it a point to make them feel included in my life. Consideration is not the same as prioritizing people. Story 34, getting promotions. Seriously, some people are so vain and egoistical that they refuse to get a promotion unless they are offered or asked to. Positions they are highly qualified for, but just refuse to apply or ask for it themselves. I had a really great worker one time, and everyone and their mothers knew she'd get the position. My company had a strict internal portal, though, that she had to apply to. She refused because she thought someone else got hired externally, and she thought we'd do the same for her somehow. She was there for 5 years and never got the promotion and made it seem like the hardest thing in the world, even though I explained it to her damn near every quarter that she was just complaining for nothing and there was nothing holding her back. Story 35, learning how to cook. Every time someone says they're useless at it or that they'll burn down the kitchen har, I assume it's just weaponized incompetence so someone else will do it for them. I wouldn't consider myself a good cook. I just look up recipes, follow said recipes, and the result is usually at least decent. TSU. Nobody's born knowing how to do it. Story 36. Investing without the help of a financial advisor. You can buy 2, 3 index funds, never touch them, and very likely do better than anyone using an advisor because of the fees they take and the expense ratios of the mutual funds they sell. Story 37. Not complaining about having to work while you're at work. I've had so many coworkers do this and it irritates me to all hell. I don't want to work either, but you know what I do. I keep my mouth shut and I suck it up. I don't complain to other people because that just drags them down with me. Story 38. This post is just full of people not actually sharing things people claim are difficult, instead just sharing things everyone agrees with. The same tired opinions all of Reddit loves to upvote. Basically what these type of posts always turn into. If you ever see a post like this and can get in early and answer with some form of people can't admit when they are wrong, even it doesn't really apply. People don't care, it will get thousands of upvotes and people sharing stories. I see it every couple months. Story 39. From what I've heard, mildly esoteric older programming languages like Fortran or COBOL. The languages themselves aren't super difficult to learn or anything. In fact, COBOL is supposedly pretty easy to learn since it's all English-based. What makes things difficult is the lack of documentation, and the fact that these languages are so outdated, it's hard to do anything with them that you'd want to do with a modern computer. Story 40, test taking. Yes, there is a small subset of people with learning disabilities and test anxiety. Knowing people I know who are poor test takers, I believe most people don't do well on tests because they do not study as much as they lead others on to believe. Story 41, after perusing through all these top answers. Who the fuck are you people hanging out with? I've never heard anyone say this basic manners shit is difficult, like being polite, not cheating, and turn signaling. Real people are telling you this stuff is difficult for them, and not just being mercilessly mocked for being useless twats. Story 42. Not letting random people annoy you. It happens so much, and I always wonder why would someone allow themselves to be annoyed about someone who doesn't know them and is actively trying to annoy them by just saying nonsense instead of just moving on and not letting it affect them. Story 43. Being a professional poker player. It's a lot easier than most people, both poker players and non-poker players, think. If you specifically lack discipline, well then, yeah, of course it'll be difficult for you. But if you can study consistently and make the correct mathematical decision constantly without letting emotions impact how you play, then you're already better than 90% of the player population. You just need the bankroll to support losses because downswings will happen. There will 100% be months-long periods where you play correctly but still lose. It's all about being consistent, though. Story 44, learning to play the piano. Yes, you won't become the next Mozart, but everyone can learn to play a few basic songs that sound good but are still relatively easy to learn. It takes a bit of time, but still. Also, no, you're never too old to start learning. Story 45, waiting in line. The amount of times I've seen people flip their shit for not being instantly helped is insane. Of course, there are exceptions to this, but a line usually means that there are more people that want something than there is the help. Yes, I'm sure there are ways to help limit lines, but everyone else in line wants the same thing you want, and why get so flustered when you yourself are also making the wait longer, lol. Story 46. Keeping your mouth closed, thinking through your response before saying something that might be hurtful to someone else. Even if you're right, consider the feelings of the speaker. Is there a better way to say what you're thinking? Does it cause more harm than help? Is it worth the possible rift in friendship? Story 47. Learning how to use computers, phones, internet, or other technology. Barring injury or illness, anyone can learn. Advanced age alone is not an excuse. Not everything is trauma, and learning the difference isn't hard. Admitting the truth. Addiction is a choice, not a disease. ADHD is not a disability. Not everyone has autism. If your life sucks, admit it and make changes. Being organized is not OCD. Grow up, manage your own triggers. Story 48. Finding a good guy, girl. Dating apps know exactly who your match is and hide that info. They exist to turn your problem into their profit. Don't look there. Your local watering hole is full of alligators. Don't look there. Stop looking for someone and find them. Look up some fun things to do in your city, something you never thought about. Oh, there's painting exhibit? Check it out. A local food drive wants help carrying boxes? Go volunteer. Find something that pushes you outside your boundaries and do so with the intent of having fun. If you find someone on the way, cool. Story 49, parenting. It's hard, don't get me wrong, but some parents complain about everything related to childcare. Have a routine. Make sure they're fed. Make sure they're challenged. Do bonding activities. Take them with you on your adventures. Teach them your crafts and be present with them. You'll have tough days, but if you can do that, it really isn't as hard as people make it out to be. Also, I know kids are different and have different conditions/challenges, but I think the above advice is mostly generally applicable. Note, I'm the parent of 3 children with ADHD. If you know your kid has ADHD, avoid red 40 and yellow 6 dyes and make sure they drink water with magnesium. Big difference. Story 50, cooking. Main mistake, not using salt. Beef and pork thumb and 2-finger pinch each side. Chicken is thumb and 1-finger pinch per side. The frying pan can quickly cook your proteins. Frying pan on medium heat for 5 minutes before you put your protein in so you can get a sear on the outside to trap the juices inside. 1-inch beef steaks, usually 2 min/side, will get you medium rare. Pork 4 min/side, chicken 10 min side. If you look at the side and you will see how far through it is cooked. Only flip once. God damn it. You could also do this in the oven on broil or 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Rest on the plate for 5 minutes. Do you want to add some flavor or impress someone? After you flip it once, 1 tablespoon butter, 1 teaspoon of your favorite spice and herb, or those pre-mixed spice and herbs like Italiano, Cajun, etc. Let the butter melt, then add the spices to the butter. Use a spoon to scoop it up and pour it over the protein. You can play around with the ratio if you want a stronger. Mashed potatoes, boil water, add red or yellow potatoes, let it go for about 20 minutes or so, 1 pinch of salt and pepper, some 1 tablespoon butter and just enough milk to cover the bottom of the pot, then mash. Baked is usually 1 HR at 450 degrees Fahrenheit, 1 finger. Always use frozen veggies. Pot boiling water adds the frozen veggies. Once bubbles form on the side of the pot, it's done and will have a nice fresh out of the garden taste. If it gets up to a boil, it's not the end of the world. Spaghetti is usually cooked in about 8 minutes. Be sure to add a 3-finger, 1 thumb pinch of salt to the boiling water before you add the spaghetti. Warm up the sauce in a pan on medium heat till it boils. Once the spaghetti is 1 cooking strain, and put it into the sauce and mix. You could brown up some ground meat first, then add the sauce for a heartier meal. That's your basic meat, potatoes, and veggies meal plus a pasta dish. These are the basics that will make learning other recipes easier. Bonus: 1 can of tomato puree, 1 can diced tomatoes. Bring to boil, then put on low for about 5 to 10 minutes to get the water out. Add 1 teaspoon garlic powder, 1 tablespoon basil. Let simmer for 5 minutes, you got a marinara sauce. Swap basil for oregano for a pizza sauce. Story 51. Losing weight and keeping it off. It will always be hard in its own way. People with different cultures and experiences and disabilities will all experience a different journey. A lot of the information is pretty simple, and it isn't all that hard to stick to once the right knowledge is learned. The trick is learning the knowledge and then learning it's not a one-size-fits-all. The real thing that is difficult is being okay with looking in the mirror, regardless of if you're your ideal weight or not. Story 52. As someone with ADHD, nothing is as hard as my brain makes it seem. Shower? You mean get out of bed, find a clean towel, go to the bathroom, take off my clothes, take down my hair, get in the shower, wash my hair, condition my hair, wash my face, wash my body, shave, etc. Then it's never that bad. Story 53. Selling a house without an agent. I was astounded at how simple the process was, and we didn't have to give a big chunk of money to a real estate agent. Posted the house, had an offer within a week, and just went down to the local title company with the buyers once they got the approval from their bank, and all the paperwork was handled for a couple $100. Story 54. Flying an airplane. I'm a flight instructor, and I fully believe anyone can hop in a small airplane, start it up, take off, and land. Sure, you'd probably be dead within a month with zero training when you accidentally stall or go off the runway, but you don't have to be intelligent to learn to fly. Story 55. Macaw parrots. More specifically, living with a calico macaw. Yeah, she's the size of a dog, but the dog won't preen my eyelashes for me or stick its tongue up my nose for what I'm sure are medicinal purposes. Easily one of the most gentle animals I've ever lived with, and I don't really get why more people don't have them. Story 56. Raising a child. I have an 11-month-old son, but I helped raise my baby cousin back when I was 16. I've been through it all, the terrible 2S3s especially. I have a lot of patience, so nothing has been hard in my opinion. Love overtakes annoyance/anger/sadness. Story 57. That's an interesting question. For me, I'd say public speaking often gets way more hype than it deserves. It sounds daunting, but once you get up there and start talking, it's just about connecting with people and sharing what you know. A lot of the anxiety comes from overthinking it. Is there something you found easier than everyone makes it out to be? Story 58. I'm going to get downvoted to hell, but making friends. I used to be socially bizarre and find talking to strangers extremely difficult. Social skills are a skill like any other you need to practice, work on, and put yourself in some uncomfortable situations before you just get over it. And suddenly meeting new people is really easy. People talk about how making friends in your 30s is impossible, and I continue to make new friends IDK. Story 59. Specifically a women thing, but using a Diva cup. It's a reusable silicone cup that you insert. Replaces the need for a tampon. It's definitely scary and weird at first, but after you figure it out and get past the weird part, it's so easy and it replaces a lot of waste. I love it, and now it's my primary use of period stuff. Story 60. Being a patient and courteous driver. When you decide to do this regardless of the way others are driving, your rage dissipates. You rise above the chaos. You don't allow others to dictate your emotions. And you end up getting to your destination at the same time as all the crazy drivers anyway. Story 61. Juggling isn't that hard to learn. I spent 20 minutes a day for about a week before I could juggle consistently for a few minutes. Get some decent juggling balls and watch a video. It's fun and seems harder than it is. Story 62. Enduring flight turbulence. Why do more people not enjoy the experience in the same way they enjoy a roller coaster ride? Turbulence alone has never once caused a single fatality where not coupled with other factors. I would prefer severe turbulence on an otherwise uneventful flight than sitting next to some person screaming bloody murder and praying to some god at the top of their voice anytime. It's worse for obvious reasons than having to endure a screaming baby for most of a flight, even if the adults who don't understand what is going on are just yelping during short bursts of bumping. Then they get into a car on the ride home, drive over a pothole, and slam on the horn because they don't like the color of some driver's cars in peak traffic. I present the human being. Story 63. Playing an instrument. Most people's experience is watching people who have already invested many years into said instrument and are already established as good musicians, so I think people get really intimidated by that. Starting may be challenging, but that hump is a small one. Story 64. Putting together IKEA furniture. You literally just check you have all the little bits first and then follow the instructions step by step. When people have trouble with it, I usually find they're skipping to step 27 and then complaining that it makes no sense. Story 65. Programming. I've been doing it for years, and even as a child, people thought I was some sort of prodigy. It's not that hard. You don't even really have to know the math. Depending on what language you're using, it's easily translated and anybody could do it. You don't have to be a genius, just get started. Story 66, a PhD in a natural science. People will often say it is hard and undoable and so forth, but it all boils down to being stubborn, consistent, and cool-headed. You don't need to be a Sheldon Cooper. You don't need to read X 10,000 papers every week. You don't need to work more than 40 H-hours, with occasional time crunches similar to undergrad. All you need is impeccable time management and the will to do it. Story 67. Math, it can also be a lot fucking harder, but that's besides the point. It is considered as one of the hardest subjects in school, yet if you just pay attention in class, like that's all you have to do, you can glide through the first 12 grades of your life. Story 68. Travel. I do a trip or two a year staying in hostels and doing hikes and fun local stuff. People just can't believe that all you have to do is book a flight and go. They always assume there's some crazy secret or special skill you need. All you need is the money, which I agree isn't available to everyone, but it's certainly less than people think it is. Story 69. Trying to not be sad while suffering from depression. Just stop thinking about the things that upset you if you can't cheer up. You don't want to form bad habits that reinforce negative emotions. Do you really think you'll ever beat depression if you mope around focused on how sad and weak you feel? Story 70. Learning the basics of guitar. Anyone can pretty easily learn to play simple pop melodies. Rock climbing is pretty easy. Some sports are simply hard and have a steep learning curve. Rock climbing is just about getting stronger and doing motions repeatedly until you get good at them. At a high level, it's hard, of course. Anything at a high level is. But literally, anyone can rock climb and become pretty competent at it. You'll impress non-climbers and they'll think you're strong AF when you're actually just an average climber. Coding. People see code and think there's a lot more to it than there really is. Cooking basics. Like just making basic meals that don't taste like shit. Just learn the balance of salt, sweet, and acid. I usually use apple cider vinegar or rice vinegar, and your food will taste pretty good. Story 71. The Souls-like games such as Elden Ring and Dark Souls. It is fair, not frustrating. No matter what, you eventually overcome any obstacles. Death is not failure and is supposed to happen as you learn how to defeat bosses. Once everything clicks on how you should play, you will start going through the games way more smoothly and smartly. Defeating that tough boss is so rewarding. Story 72. To draw a stick man. I have drawn all my life, 50 plus years. I get people telling me they cannot draw stick men. BS. Easiest thing to do, yes you can. My skill is from drawing repeatedly, finding style I like and work at. I cannot draw like this when I was 4, 2 at whatever age. Just like playing an instrument, you gotta work at it. It infuriates me because my work doesn't man anything. Story 73. Doing something by hand without a jig or guide. Sharpening a chainsaw is easier without one of those weird file guides. Cutting straight with a chainsaw is easier without an Alaskan sawmill than with. Bending copper is easier by hand than by sheet metal brake. Just take the effort to do it the hard way and it'll prove itself the easy way once you learn it. Story 74. Fixing your sleep schedule. You aren't a night owl, it's my biology man. You're just procrastinating, going to sleep at night and getting up in the morning a little bit more every day. You aren't making efforts for a healthy lifestyle and you keep doom scrolling for hours before you sleep. Biology may play a part, but its relative impact is way overblown. People jump on that excuse like, see, it's biology. So there's no other factors at play. I literally have no control whatsoever over this. And then proceed to stay on their phone/laptop until 2 a.m. just like every night. Story 75. Running a business. It's not really that difficult. It's anxiety-inducing, especially once you get to the point where you are responsible for paying employees. I've had 7. I've sold 2. I currently run 4. I have not gotten to the level of success that I envision, but it's not because it's hard. It's because I'm not as disciplined as I should be to get to where I want to be. Story 76. Learning the basics of computers. I know people who have literally worked on massive highway projects that involve tunneling under lakes and looking over extremely complex diagrams that showed gas, water, electricity diagrams. But when you ask them to set up a Microsoft Teams meeting with screenshots showing exactly what you need to click on and what to type, total time, 2 minutes, total steps, 11, they fall apart and just push their laptop to someone else to set it all up for them. I know that computers are complex, but when your job involves just clicking on 11 things, saying, oh, it's too difficult, is bullshit. Story 77. I'm always pretty surprised how people despair about how it's impossible to be a homeowner or make a living wage in the USA. I literally had 0 difficulties. You just need to use common sense and maybe not try and live in a big city or one of the coasts. From there, it should be more or less a cakewalk if you're adept at financing. Story 78, learning new softwares. Companies make such a big deal of this, wanting you to have specific experience with, say, HubSpot, and won't hire you if you did Salesforce or Monday versus ClickUp, etc. Truth is, they all function similarly enough to it. All you got to learn is where the commands are and what bits of difference actually exist. Story 79, understanding a new language. It just takes watching one episode per day with audio and subtitles in the language. In several months, you'll be pretty good at it, and you may be able to speak it too. Learning to speak a new language well, though, is another story. Story 80. Learning to pronounce foreign names or words. I see this all the time on the videos I watch, particularly video essays and true crime, and it drives me crazy. IMO. It comes off as disrespectful to say, I know I'm going to butcher this, instead of just putting in the effort to learn. If you can write a script and film a video, you can learn to pronounce a name. Story 81. Medical question. I am a 14. A week from now, I will be 15. And for the last 2 years, I felt like I haven't been able to breathe properly. Sometimes it gets so bad to the point of where I start crying and thinking I will die. I have been to the hospital around 3-4 times for it, but have never been diagnosed with anything. I'm a little overweight. I'm 76 kilograms. I was on anxiety medication, fluoxetine. It helped for about a year, and then recently it has started happening again, and I switched to a different one, sertraline, and it hasn't been helping. And at night, when I try to go to bed sometimes, I start to feel it happen again. But the second I sit up and chill for a minute, it goes away. And I really hate this feeling. It stopped me from doing sports, hence the weight gain. And IDK, I just feel like I need to yawn to breathe and take really deep breaths to feel like I'm breathing BBQs without it. It doesn't feel like I'm getting enough oxygen. Story 82. I never found climbing up the income ladder and getting good jobs difficult. Though according to Reddit, it's insanely hard and I'm uncommon. I just learned as much as I could at each job, taking on extra duties, then leveraging that to job hop for higher income. Never seemed all that tough. Story 83, keeping private information private, especially about other people, gossiping. You absolutely can keep things to yourself. My mom will call me with, did you know so-and-so is getting a divorce, in rehab, got arrested, whatever? And it will be about some neighbor from my childhood. Like, no, Mom, I didn't, because this person's business is not my business. I just had to tell someone. Story 84, filling in holes in walls from picture frame hooks. Spackle, let dry, sand down, and use a foam brush using the same paint you used on the walls. Total cost minus paint, which you probably already had, about $12. And you can use it over and over. It's really just the mystery of not knowing how. Someone taught me 15 years ago, and it took about 1 minute to explain. An entire industry led by 3M to use adhesives on walls, which help ruin walls anyway, came about because of the fear of making holes in walls and filling them in. Story 85. Becoming a millionaire. Hear me out. No one says using blinkers to turn is hard. No one says being polite is hard. However, I think we can all agree there is a consensus that getting rich is difficult and takes massive windfalls. But it's not actually that hard to max out a Roth every year. It's not easy, sure, but not nearly as difficult as people say it is. Story 86. Losing weight. People will lie to others and themselves, most commonly by saying, I've tried everything, and it's crazy to me that people still buy scam weight loss products or look for videos that have the one secret to burn fat and gain muscle. Story 87. Basic and intermediate auto repairs, even on modern cars. Sure, there's always this one obscure model that makes a certain simple task frustratingly difficult. Believe me, I've been there. But that's hardly representative. Anyone with a half-decent toolkit can do most of the standard repairs. The learning curve flattens out really quick. Whether you want to do it is a different story, of course. Oh, but modern cars are so computerized, you can't do anything on your own anymore. You know what? That's what they said 30 years ago, when I started getting into cars. Sure, you might need different skills and tools for the job, but that's about it. Story 88. Getting in shape. I was a personal trainer for 2 years. The amount of people who would benefit greatly from just a brisk 30-minute walk every day with an elevated heart rate is crazy. It's not about losing a ton of weight. It's not about being totally shredded. It's not about being a bodybuilder or the strongest in the room. Walking is something you'll want to be able to do for as long as possible. Once you lose your ability to get around well at an old age, it's difficult to get it back. The best way to combat it is to regularly walk while you're young. Story 89. Getting a job that pays more than minimum wage. I feel like the people that complain about not getting paid more are the same people who show up late, call off, don't perform well, complain, etc. Even if you aren't able to get promoted, you should be able to find other jobs that pay more as long as you have a good work ethic. History. Story 90. Saving money and time management. Cooking is brought up elsewhere in this thread, and it's a perfect example of how, I don't have time goes hand in hand with overspending on subpar meals that you pay someone else to make for you. Start by learning how to cook eggs. Eggs are cheap, the prep time is almost nil, and recipes go from beginner, scrambled, to pretty tricky, omurus, and everything in between. Story 91. Filing your taxes in the U.S. It takes at most 30 minutes. It usually requires no math. The service I use is completely free. Most of the others are like $20. Every year there are articles about how the average American spends 12 hours and $600 doing their taxes. And of course, endless think pieces about how schools should teach you to file your taxes. And I just don't get it. I don't understand what these people are doing. And I mean, schools do teach you how to read and follow step-by-step directions. That's all you need. There's so much misinformation about this that some British guy, who is one of the unfortunate ones who actually has to manually file their taxes over there, was bragging about how easy he has it, except what he described was harder than what I do every year. Also, no, the IRS does not secretly know your exact tax liability. Complete fiction. A Redditor literally made this up and everyone here just randomly believed it. Story 92. For me, it's college. In high school, I didn't try at all. I joined the Army, did a combat deployment, and when I got out, I went to college. If you only have to go to school and don't have to worry about working, college is a breeze. Cybersecurity degree. I was working full-time and had to drive an hour and a half to 2 hours away to go to school. Woke up at 5 a.m. and got back at home around 10:30 at night. Also have a wife and kid and still had a 4.0 GPA. Everything in college is just laid out and simple. And if you have any sense of time management, it's not that bad. Story 93. This is a problem that's worsened over time. Most people seem to speak from their own experiences and don't consider what life is like from another's perspective. The issue is, you can never expect them to consider life from multiple angles because that's just something the average person doesn't even think of. Story 94. 2 things that are simple, just really, really hard. Losing weight and getting wealthy. Eat less and exercise more to create a caloric deficit. And auto-deposit 10% of your paycheck into an index fund and figure out how to live on the rest, and it will be $1M plus after many years. We know these things, but despite being simple, they are really, really hard to do. We overcomplicate them constantly, trying to make excuses or find workarounds. Being poor is hard. Sacrificing and saving is hard. Choose your hard. Being overweight is hard. Eating less and exercising is hard. Choose your hard. Story 95. Reading. People seem allergic to it. And this isn't some faux intellectual commentary criticizing people for not reading books. I'm talking about how we all have access to all the world's knowledge in our pockets, and people refuse to Google things and read and learn from them. Instead, they want some stranger to water it down for them in 3 lines or less. They go on years getting themselves in massive debt because they won't take the time to learn the basics of financials and loans. They spend hundreds, if not thousands, on repairs because they can't Google how to change a light bulb or how to use a screwdriver. They have massive knowledge gaps in basic stuff we learn at school, and instead of refreshing their memory, they just keep on being dumb. Story 96. Playing piano, just tap the keys with your fingers, bro. You can practice on any flat surface tapping your fingers. After you have some muscle memory of where things are, you just have to learn a small amount of music theory. I sat down and played the piano without a teacher. About a year now I've been doing improv and just exploring the piano with my fingers and ears. I only know Minuet in G and in Wet Hands from Minecraft, but have hundreds of hours of just messing around. Story 97. Getting the work done. It's never as bad as you think it's going to be when you're procrastinating and putting it off. Instead of using the term hard work, use the term focused energy. Instead of thinking about how much work needs to get done, think about how you need to focus your energy on a problem. This approach makes getting the hard work done psychologically a lot easier. The actual work is never as bad as you think it's going to be. Story 98. Admitting you're wrong when you are. Many people would rather die than admit they are wrong about something, or made an error of judgment, or made a mistake. None of us can be right all the time. We're all just flawed humans struggling to get it right and making mistakes along the way, unless you're a pathological narcissist, of course. Story 99. Doing the right thing. I realize that doing things the easy way is more compelling, but it's lazy. And once you do the right thing, the internal satisfaction cannot be matched. Doing the lazy, wrong thing will never bring the satisfaction the soul craves. In fact, it leads to the need to lie to oneself, and that is a very slippery slope. The subconscious is never fooled and will bring up the issue again and again, leading to you either eventually doing the right thing or burying yourself behind some defensive wall that leads to absolute misery and the need to numb yourself. Story 100. Working out regularly to lose weight. Unfortunately, after a couple weeks, workout out becomes the easy part. The harder part is the diet control and knowing just how much of a calorie deficit you need to lose weight. I say this from my perspective. Getting out of the house and going to the gym was both the fun and easy part, especially if you're weight training. Seeing progress in how much you're able to lift starts quickly, tapers off, but by then you've developed the habit. The main thing is, don't go to the gym or work out exclusively to lose weight. It's generally the wrong mindset. Losing weight should be a secondary goal, with self-improvement and growth being number one. Story 101. Almost everything, seriously. I once sat down with the chief of police about why there were so many inefficiencies and so much drama in the department. His answer was very simple. Jobs aren't complicated, people are complicated. The older I got, the more true that seemed to be. People often make their jobs seem more complicated than they are, or really talk things up to boost their ego and also protect their own jobs in a way. Story 102, watching a Shakespeare play. For the first 5-10 minutes, it will sound like they are speaking a foreign language. But then your fantastic brain clicks into gear, and you can follow 90% of it. It is great stuff. You will learn so much about what it means to be human. Give it 15 minutes. New worlds will open up to you, I promise.